Romans chapter 11. Romans 11, verse 25.
The fullness of the Gentiles?
Romans 11:25. This was Chris's brainchild. I really need to make him come up here and teach this, but I thought it was good, so we got to all enjoy it now, whether y'all want to or not. Romans 11:25. For I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery, lest ye should be wise in your own conceit, that blindness in part has happened to Israel, until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. So what is the fullness of the Gentiles that's supposed to come in? That's the question. Most people will tell you that's talking about the church age leaves. The fullness means the number of people, or maybe it's a time. You can hear it described as fullness being a hourglass, and when the bottom is full, time is up. So the fullness has come in. Or it could be a number that they're waiting on the number to fill up. But the fact of the matter is, it has nothing to do with the rapture. Because when the fullness of the Gentiles, when we leave, that still doesn't give salvation to everybody. See the next verse? So all Israel shall be saved. Well, when we leave, it doesn't save Israel. Okay, what saves Israel is the millennium. So the fullness has to be something else. Let's just define the word Genesis. Genesis chapter 6. Genesis 6, verse 11. Genesis 6:11. The earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. Okay, so it had reached its tipping point. The bucket of man's deeds had reached the tipping point of full of violence. Look at chapter 15. Chapter 15, verse 16. Genesis 15:16. But in the fourth generation shall they come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. Okay, God says, I'm waiting until the iniquity of the Amorites gets to a certain point. Then I'm going to pull my people out. But until they get to that breaking point, the point of no return, this is the grace of God is what it is. Because God could destroy us the second we do the first drop of iniquity. But he's waiting till the iniquity of the Amorites becomes filled. Genesis 25. Genesis 25, verse 24. This is an easy one. Everybody understands this one. Genesis 25:24. And when her days, okay, that's defined it right there, days. When her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. Okay, so she gave birth. And there was a certain number of days that needed to be fulfilled until she could give birth. 9 months or 65 months or whatever it turns out to be. Maybe it feels like it. Daniel chapter 8. Daniel 8, verse 23. Daniel 8:23. And now once you get into Daniel, you know you're in a prophetic book and you're getting real close to an answer. Daniel 8:23. And in the latter times of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. Okay, that's the Antichrist or the devil incarnate. Right there, that'll be in the tribulation. And the trigger for that is this. When the transgressors are come to the full. That is, when each person that is a transgressor reaches the certain point of transgression. God's got a scale up there, and it weighs how much transgression you've accumulated. Look at it in Matthew 23:32. Matthew 23:32. You know what's in Matthew 23. This This is what Joel Osteen patterns his sermons after. This is Jesus letting the religious crowd have it. He turns to them and he says this, "Fill ye up then the measure of your fathers." That's not a positive statement. He's saying, go ahead, do wickedness, fill it up. That's a threat to them. Look at Luke chapter 21. Luke 21:24. "And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled." They're still trotting them down in the tribulation. So, even after we leave, it's still, the fullness of the Gentiles has still not come in. It won't come in until the end of the tribulation. There's an act they do that reaches a certain point, and God says, okay, now I'm going to give you the Antichrist. I'm going to turn Satan loose on you. That's what you've been begging for. And he does. And at some point, the time of the Gentiles, their destruction comes to an end. We saw the first reference to something being full was violence. And it's going to end that way too. And then we already read the verse in Romans. The next one is in 1 Thessalonians. 1 Thessalonians 2, verse 16. First Thessalonians 2:16, "Forbidding us to speak to the Gentiles, that they might be saved, to fill up their sins always. For the wrath is come upon them to the uttermost." Okay, so there, what's being filled up is their sins. A certain number of sins is going to go on the scale. And then when it reaches a certain point, God says, okay, now I do something about it. So in our passage in Romans 11, the fullness of the Gentiles there is obviously talking about when the iniquity of Gentiles reaches its tipping point, God does something. What he does is he destroys them. Then he does what the next verse says he's going to do. All of Israel gets salvation that's left. You know, the 700 that are left? Or whatever. It's going to be a very small number, a small remnant.